Hydro Cannon removes Drapion from the field of play, and it's all down to a 2-shielded Scrafty to clean up. Scrafty going to be invested in Protect Shield, blocking up the Hydro Cannon. The opponent tried to catch on Registeel. While Counter's Energy Generation might be nerfed, it's still just as hard hitting as it always was. Scrafty going to go for the 1-shield, full counter farm down, leaving with the back-to-back moves. Welcome back to the channel. For the second consecutive day, we're taking a look at one of the new buffed fighting type Pokemon that recently got access to Upper Hand. Today is actually going to be the first time I've ever featured Scrafty on the channel. Of course, I always say when I see this Pokemon, it needs to pull its bloody trousers up. I'm sure some of you will be wondering, how did I get to this point and why am I featuring Scrafty? Well, fellow content creator, the highly talented and highly entertaining Shmeaty PvP dropped me a message saying he was running Scrafty, Double Dark Poison, would I be interested in shoutcasting the battles? Fighter Double Dark Poison has always been my signature team. We've ran so many different variations of it on the channel, and Scrafty happens to be the one anomaly we're yet to feature, so of course I jumped at the chance. The first thing I'm going to ask all three of you that are watching this video, if it's even free, it might only be two as I'll be honest, content is performing terribly right now. Do me a favour, go drop my boy a sub, he is well worth it, his link down below. Shmeaty actually only sent me 8 battles. Of course, I could have just put them 8 out in a nice short and sweet video. However, I know a lot of you prefer the longer content. So I dropped a cool 550,000 Stardust. I built a Scrafty myself. And we're going to see both variations of Scrafty. The first half of the video is going to be Shmeaty opting for Snarl. And the second half is going to be me running counter with the exact same Double Dark Poison backline. This intro has gone on for far too long. So without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game 1, Shmeaty's decision to run Snarl has come in clutch as Golurk would completely clap the team if we're running counter. He went for the world's cheekiest double resisted upper hand bait. Upper hand and foul play actually both cost 40 energy. But Golurks love to shield as they're insanely glassy and it does have a 30% chance of defense drop. The opponent then catches the next upper hand onto Squidward and Drapion hits the field of play. Drapion wastes no time, fires off the Crunch. Crunch gets them below half health. The opponent going to return fire with the Skull. Drapion withstands the damage. Shmeaty going to look to overfarm, throw on the CMP tie and look to remove Squidward from the field of play. We actually go for the undercharge, but the Crunch is still lethal. Back out comes Golurk. Golurk, not wanting to get with a charge move, opts to dump the Shadow Punch, removing Drapion from the field of play. Scrafty re-enters the arena. The opponent go for the foul play, catch onto Alolan Ninetales. We bank the charge move, send out Skuntank. Skuntank fires off the Trailblaze, going for the undercharge, and that undercharge looks like a beauty. Shmeaty will be going for the 1-shield, full poison jab farm down, and the question now becomes, can Golurk get enough energy together to dynamic punch our Scrafty to the face? We're going to reach the Crunch. Crunch will be forcing the final Protect Shield. Do they have the dynamic punch locked and loaded, or is this just a Shadow Punch? It's just the Shadow Punch. Scrafty holds strong, reaches the foul play, and we're off to a 1-0 start. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, we see Scrafty into Blastoise. The opponent says no thank you, say switch into Malamar. Shmeaty gonna fire off the upper hand and likely pivot out into one of our dark poisons. The upper hand goes unshielded and Drapion enters the arena. As long as you've got a decent Shadow Drapion, you can tank both superpowers and you're never really in too much danger of getting Psywave farmed down. Of course, superpower does debuff your own attack by 1 stage and your defense, meaning the Psywaves are doing even less than they were before. Shmeaty fires off the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail forced to Protect Shield. The opponent read us like a book, catch the next Aqua Tail onto Big Man Blastoise, and we re-enter the Scrafty into Blastoise matchup. Snarl does give you better pacing, however you're applying so very little fast move pressure. We fire off the upper hand, not getting the defense drop. The Snarl variant of Scrafty is very reliant on landing charge moves, whereas the counter variant essentially wants to find its target. It's just countering the shit out of anything that's even remotely weak to counter, or at least neutral. Scrafty's actually really bulky. This isn't even Hydro Cannon range. The opponent's going to have a very tough time of attempting to roll out farm us down. Opponent fires off the Hydro Cannon. We see the Simul swap. Skuntank back into Malamar. Shmeaty looks to call the foul play bait, and unfortunately we get superpowered to the face. I thought Shmeaty was going to do his best impersonation of me, reverse 2-shield flexing, but finally with Vest of Protect Shield, blocking up the debuff superpower. Back out comes Blastoise. Blastoise going to fire off the departing Hydro Cannon. Shmeaty going to invest the final Protect Shield before looking for that full poison jab farm down. Out comes Runerigas. We're going to fire off the Trailblaze. I don't dislike firing off the Trailblaze first, as you're going to need 2 moves to knock out, so you may as well boost your quick move damage. Not that these poison jabs are doing much of anything, as they are double resisted. We go for the wham bam combo play, serve the opponent the Big Mac and the fries. Oof, that foul play. You can certainly see Scrafty doesn't hit that hard. Isn't enough to knock out. Back out comes Skuntank. Skuntank looks for the poison jab, farm down, unable to get it. The opponent reached the Rock Tomb, removing us from the field of play. But Drapion able to hang on, reach the Aqua Tail, and we get the job done. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see the Panda Bear in the lead position. In game number 1, we're very appreciative for running Snarl when we saw Golurk. However, in this matchup, we're now hitting for double resisted with our quick move, as opposed to super effective. Oof, talking of double resisted, the opponent double resisted Night Slash bait us like a savage. Undeterred. We're going to fire off back-to-back upper hands the first one, force the protection, the second one also goes shielded. We send out Drapion to operate as the damage sponge. This surely is a close combat and dip, no reason to Night Slash. We look to fire off the Aqua Tail on the debuff Pangoro. The opponent catches it on Talonflame. I'm not sure what's in the back, but I'm not really sure that's what you want to catch on, as this Talonflame straight in and straight out. We're certainly going to take that. I hate that Kentucky Fried Chicken bird of death with a passion. The Panda Bear able to get the Karate Chop farm down. We re-enter the Battle of the Dark Fighters. We see the instant no-shield deployed. Shmeaty dares the opponent to full send the nuke, and they do exactly that. And it's all down to Skuntank to clean up. Skuntank hits the field of play. We see the instant shield deployed, correctly shielding up the close combat. Oh boy, out comes Dust Noir, and it's a Shadow. Shadow on Shadow Crime. Crunch almost picks up the one-hit KO. Unfortunately, unable to poison jab farm down before the Dynamic Punch is reached, but Dynamic Punch not going to get the job done. Skuntank leaves with the Trailblaze. The Panda Bear going to be straight in and straight out, and Skuntank will be emerging victorious. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, we see Claydol in the lead. The opponent instantly pivot out, probably anticipating us running counter. They send out Gliscopod. Later in the video, you're going to see I'm actually opting for Thunder Punch. I'm not entirely sure I wanted Thunder Punch, but I've got very limited TMs. But I do think stuff like Gliscopod and Tentacruel are a lot more manageable for this team if you do have some electric type coverage. Shmeaty landed the foul play, sends out Drapion. Drapion overfarms as much as it physically can before firing off the crunch or looking to pick up a knockout. The opponent invests that Protect Shield. Drapion is doubled up. If the opponent wants switch, they're going to have to shield twice. They do exactly that. Shmeaty now has himself a 2-0 shield advantage. We send out Skuntank. I was kind of anticipating a shield here, but Shmeaty like, nah, this is the Scrafty showcase. We're going to save all our shields for Scrafty. This next move won't knock out, but will put us low. We better hope the opponent hasn't got a fairy in the back. They actually send back out Claydol. Not sure on that play. Are they ABA weak to fighting? There's no real other reason to send out your tree. Of course, they're going to look to debuff us. Shmeaty knows they're likely going to Rock Tomb and isn't shielding shit. Shmeaty overfarms, fires off the next uphand on the CMP type, but as we're debuffed, unfortunately, isn't quite enough to get the job done this time. We are going to respect the grass knot and not look to die with 2 shields, but once again, the opponent opt for the Rock Tomb bait. Out comes the Kentucky Fried Chicken, bird of death. This foul play, double debuffed, and essentially does nothing. We go for the wham, bam, combo play. Skuntank able to fire off the crunch. I'm not entirely sure why the opponent didn't throw there, but we're not complaining. This foul play, now it's not debuffed, does remove Talonflame from the field of play. Scrafty is a Talonflame counter confirmed. Back out comes the tree. Uphand, even no bubbled, picks up the knockout. 1 snarl, removes Gliscopod from the field of play, and we take that game. In the next battle, we see the Battle of the Dark types. If we're running counter, you can land 1 uphand, shield once, and fully counter down. On snarl, this looks like a very scuffed matchup. You see that uphand, that doesn't do too much. The opponent farms their Brave Bird. Shmeaty looks to call the bait. Oof. Almost we get 1 hit KO, but Scrafty holds strong, reaches the next upper hand, forcing the first Protect Shield of the game. Brave Bird does harshly lower the user's defense, so it looks like Shmeaty gonna send out Skuntank. Please shield. Good. Go for the 1 shield. Look for the poison jab farm down. The opponent not wanting to concede a farm down. Send out Drapion. We're on a triple dark team. I wonder if the opponent has the same idea. We opt to chip the opposing Drapion and then enter the world's most boring mirror. I miss the days when Drapion was pretty much my little fun pick, the channel mascot, and nowadays it's on like 95% of teams, or maybe not that common, but this matchup is so boring, especially in Ultra League, where you can just tank hit after hit. Shmeaty unleashes the next Aqua Tail, looks to move Drapion from the field of play, and we do exactly that. Galarian Moltres re-enters the arena. Shmeaty wastes no time, unleashes the next Aqua Tail, removing them from the field of play, and out comes Registeel. Holy cow, man, this opponent's team has such a disrespect to fighters. They are so bloody weak. Unfortunately, with our fighter out the way, not that we're running a fighting type quick move, it's down to the double tark poison boys. to remove this tin can from the field of play. Despite Drapion being very low, Shmeaty, happy to invest the Protect Shield as Lock On is applying like literally no fast move pressure. Shmeaty just settles for the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail forced the final Protect Shield, and we see the pivot into Shadow Skuntank. In the early seasons of running Shadow Skuntank, Flamethrower was always my preferred move. I still think an argument could be made to run Flamethrower. It's nice for stuff like Registeel and Cobalion, although they are a lot less common nowadays. We fire off the crunch. Who needs Flamethrower? Evidently not Shmeaty, and we took that game. In the next battle, we see Big Man Blastoise in the lead. The opponent save switches into Gliscopod. Shmeaty looking to farm up 1 bazillion energy. We go for one further snarl and an upper hand bait. I don't know why we're throwing upper hand here, as I doubt the opponent's shields, and they do not. I guess Shmeaty being very horny, fishing for that defense drop, which we're unable to get. Shmeaty banks a bucketload of energy, and Drapion hits the field of play. Switch timers are now heavily misaligned, so the opponent could pivot out if they want to. Shmeaty farms up, ends up getting a little bit greedy or perhaps miscounting. Playing to the CMP tie, he does not win, and Drapion loses almost all its HP. Shmeaty looks to make amends, going for the undercharge. The undercharge was a good one, but the opponent makes use of that misaligned timer, saving Gliscopod as the potential third shield, and Blastoise re-hits the field of play. The opponent rollout farms us down, we send back out Scrafty, fire off the upper hand, winning CMP. Despite Scrafty being low, we're actually going to see Shmeaty invest the Protect Shield as he's got so much energy. We farm up to the double upper hand. So the opponent shield once, they'll be forced to shield twice. Out comes Galarian Weezing. I'll be honest, my team was having a huge problem with this thing. Let's see if Shmeaty is able to overcome it. The opponent doesn't even farm up to a potential Flamethrower, making our life super easy as we're not forced to shield. We fire off the Trailblaze, which would be resisted, but the opponent has 2 shields and looks like they intend to use them. Shmeaty tanks the next sludge. His Skuntank's definitely got better IVs than mine. Mine is so garbage, and 2 resisted sludges almost knocked me out. You know what they say, IVs don't matter till they do. The opponent fire off the Brutal Swing bait. They're able to reach another Brutal Swing, and it's going to be Scrafty versus the world. Scrafty fires off one Snarl and the foul play. The opponent doesn't make a catch. Foul play, picks up the knockout. Back out comes Gliscopod. We Snarl farm down and take that game. Nicely done. In the next battle, we see the Steel Flyer, the new and improved Skarmory, or at least something like that. Although Zera Felrose tells me this thing is an absolute fraud. This is probably another matchup where we wish we opted for counter as our quick move. Or if this Corviknight's bulky, the upper hand didn't seem to do much of anything. You're going to see in my battles, I swear I got the defense drop like at least 50% of the time, where Shmeaty seems to get in at very little luck from them RNG gods. I pray to them daily. That's my top tip. If you want to be good at PvP, just pray to the RNG gods. You don't need to be skillful, just get some luck. We see an aggressive pivot into the Scorpion, able to get a very nice Poison Sting farm down. Out comes Zygarde. Man, this opponent must be fun at parties, running 2 of the bulkiest Pokemon eligible for the format. It looks like we found a Bulldoze Zygarde as well. Or not, the opponent just fired off a Crunch. Why would you not even farm up to the Earthquake or Outrage or something? Very strange. If you don't want to pray to the RNG gods, I've got another top tip for you in GBL. Just run 3 of the bulkiest Pokemon ever. Spam charge moves whenever you get them and just hope to outbulk your opponent, as it looks essentially like that is this opponent's strategy. We send out Skuntank. The opponent sends out Jellicent into our Skunk. What another questionable play from this opponent. These battles are like 2600 elo as well, so this opponent should have some idea of what they're doing, but that was such a strange battle. Let's just leave it there and move on to the next one. Awful lead. We see the pivot into Drapion. Drapion fires off the Aqua Tail. Oh, you're about to get overheated to the face. No, it's just a sludge, and the opponent then sends out Gliscopod. Drapion with an energy lead, going to do very nicely into this battle. Drapion lands the first crunch. Shmeaty actually going for the Aqua Tail bait, anticipating the opponent, looking to keep that very healthy alignment. The opponent ends up shielding the Aqua Tail. You know that opponent was swearing at that, thinking who baits with an Aqua Tail? Evidently Shmeaty. Unfortunately, we're unable to reach another charge move, and we send out Scrafty. Scrafty should be committing to the aggressive Snarl farm down here, as there's no real reason to chuck energy at this low health Gliscopod. The opponent firing off Aqua Jet after Aqua Jet. Oof, they're actually going to reach one more, so we opt to fire off the upper hand, wanting to keep some health. We then see the pivot into Skuntank. Okay, G-Weezy continues to stay in, which is a good sign. Shmeaty again, gonna call the sludge. It's just a sludge, and we go straight for the Trailblaze. Look at the vamp up, our aggressive poison jab damage. The opponent unwilling to shield a resisted Trailblaze and send out Jellicent into a shield advantage, a boosted Skunk. I think this one is already signed, sealed and delivered. We shield up the Surf, go for the correct 4 poison jabs and the Crunch. Crunch goes unshielded. We then send back out Scrafty. Scrafty certainly puts in a range where we can poison jab farm them down. Surf picks up the knockout. The opponent hanging on to one shield. It looks like that shield will be saved for next season. We poison jab farm down the remainder of the team and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, the first of my own battles. Holy cow, that is the world's biggest Blastoise. I'm not sure if they've been hitting the chicken shop or the gym, but this thing is enormous. We actually saw a pretty cool pick in the lead, a Shadow Cacturne. But my entire team is going to clap that thing, so I'm more than happy to stay in here. You can already tell the difference in fast move pressure. Counter might have its energy generation nerfed for what it once was, but the fast move pressure is still certainly there. The opponent full senders Skull Bash. Scrafty simply does not care, able to tank the damage and counter farm down. You can see I was anticipating switching out, but let's at least see what comes in. The opponent sends out Lapras. Oh boy. This poor opponent. I'm going to show him Skunk and anticipate the opponent top left in. Although to my surprise, the opponent continued to stay in, so I guess if they want that work, who am I not to give it to them? I'm going to shield up the Sparkling Aura, over farm, fire off the Trailblaze. I was anticipating the opponent trying to make a catch, but even if they catch, that Cacturne is just going to get deleted. I think I'm going to save my final Protect Shield for a potential Dynamic Punch. The opponent fire off the Ice Beam, then send out Cacturne. And are you ready for this fast move pressure? The opponent going to shield up the Trailblaze. We're in the red. They're at full health. We're still able to simul KO. Poor old Cacturne doesn't even reach a charge move. Such a cool pick. I actually wish I could build one. I'm nowhere near the requirement of XL Candy. One day you'll see me run it in Ultra League. Heading into the next battle, we see the Scrafty Mirror. The opponent flexing on me with a shiny. I'm going to fire off the Uphand. Uphand goes unshielded and I send out Drapion. The opponent banks a bucket load of energy and then send out Registeel. I definitely think an argument could have been made. The opponent should have went for the Chip and Dip, as this matchup is super awkward if you're the Tin Can. The opponent's going to need to fire off 2 charge moves to knock me out. So if they would have fired off the Uphand, I'd potentially been in 1 move range, or certainly would have been in 1 move range if they got that 30% chance for the debuff. The opponent actually get the debuff to my attack, but they're still never ever lock on farming me down. I'm going to release yet another Crunch. Crunch goes unshielded and gets them into the red health range. The opponent's going to be forced to dump energy. And looking at the health, I'm thinking, do you know what? That looks like a very, very juicy poison jab farm down. The opponent not wanting to concede a farm down, send out Ampharos. I'm going to fire off the Crunch. Crunch, force to Protect Shield. We get the defense drop and I send out Scrafty. Probably Trailblaze Brutal Swing, so I should survive any 1 move. Oof! I just got Zap Cannon. What a boom from the opponent. The opponent then doesn't throw another charge move. We've still got 2 shields. I'm just going to look to poison jab farm down everything. Of course, I could fire off a Crunch at Registeel. But I guess the quickest way to win this battle is just go for the resistive poison jab farm down. And we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see my nemesis, Galarian Weezing. I'm going to look to utilise Shadow Drapion on the save switch. I'm going to fire off the Aqua Tail before the opponent potentially fire off an OV. It's nice to get some chip damage on this thing anyway, making it a bit more manageable for Skuntank when it gets aligned later on. The opponent farms the overheat bait with the Sludge and then send out Lapras. Unfortunately, even tanking the resisted Sludge means it's going to be very hard for me to flip this matchup unless I'm willing to go down Protect Shield. I will survive this Sparkling Aura, reach another Crunch, but unfortunately, even with a -1 defense, this Crunch simply will not cut it. It is going to get Lapras into the red, and they are going to be able to sideway farm down, which is going to send out Scrafty. We do get 1 turn bring in. Potentially they shouldn't have got this move off, but it's neither here nor there. It was so weird for me using an XL regular Pokemon. As you can see, this thing is so bulky. Out comes Shadow Gator. Skuntank needs to put the team on its back. I'm going to shield up the Hydro Cannon, fire off the Trailblaze. Trailblaze, of course, will be forcing their Protect Shield, but also vamping up my attack. I think I misplayed this matchup here. I think I should just shield and look to poison jab farm them down. I am actually going to fire off the Trailblaze, forcing the next Protect Shield, thinking I'll then boost my poison jabs. But I think the issue is, giving them a quick move is going to mean I'm not going to be able to farm down, so I'm forced to make the catch onto Scrafty. Sparkling Aura plus a Hydro Cannon are certainly going to put me in a range where I'm going to get fully Fairy Wind farm down. I definitely think I misplayed that, but it is what it is. I'm a potato. We all know that by now. The opponent, if they've got OV, About to one-hit KO me, or even double sludge will get the job done, but this opponent actually going to go for the sludge and then full send the OV is a bit of bad manners. GG's, buddy. We'll have to include some battles where Jamie Finn gets absolutely clapped, because it's quite funny, to be honest. Heading into the next battle, we're playing against my mate Pete, and Pete very much with the correct alignment. He's even flexing on me with his big man Blastoise, rocking some cool sunglasses, but this Blastoise certainly not as big as the one we saw in battle number 1. That thing was terrifying. He full sends a Skull Bash. Is that the correct play? Debatable. They're going to need to still throw again to knock me out. We managed to force ourselves a shield advantage here in the mid-game matchup. I was tempted to shield, but as I didn't get a defense drop, I know the next crunch won't be lethal. Instead, we're just going to send out Scrafty, and I might actually look for the aggressive counter farm down. Even with a buffed up defense, it looks like that's certainly possible. We can easily tank 2 Hydros, and I guess I just need all the energy in the world, because these Thunder Punches are just going to tickle that Weezing when we get realigned. The buff to Blastoise defense is actually doing me a favour here. As we get more farm and counters energy generation is dreadful. Back up comes Galarian Weezing, Thunder Punch, perfect damage, holy cow. I pivot into Skuntank and out comes Jellicent. Despite having 2 shields, 1 surf is survivable, and I think here I make a huge mistake going for the Trailblaze. Crunch would do objectively more. Trailblaze goes unshielded. I think if you actually get the Crunch which goes unshielded, I could have fully poison jab farm down. What am I doing in my life? I'm then going to overfarm, fire off the Trailblaze. I think certainly crunching there would have been the correct play, but it is what it is. Back out comes this healthy Galarian Weezing. I'm forced to shield this as Scrafty. Can't harm it. I even get Brutal Swing baited. Pete, why you have to do me dirty like that, bro? I'm going to fire off the Trailblaze. It's double boosted. It does force the final Protect Shield. I then look to make the catch. The catch attempt unsuccessful. We fire off the Thunder Punch, and nowhere near gets the job done. Hold up. He actually throws here, potentially giving me a chance. Can we poison jab farm down? No, we can't, to be honest. I think, again, misplayed by me, and I deserve to take the loss. GG's to my friend Pete. A very tough learning curve with this team, and I don't think I was playing particularly well. But we've left all the battles in, so you can kind of learn from some of my potato plays. Heading into the next battle, we see Registeel in the lead position. The opponent save switches into Gliscopod. I'm going to stay in, fire off a Thunder Punch, put him in a range where I can just send out even my 2 Dark Poisons and put them in a very manageable range. I'm always going to keep that super positive alignment. Looking at the health, I was thinking we can tank 1 move and 5 Poison Jabs that should knock out, meaning we're not even going to have to invest in Protection or dump energy, and it works out perfectly for me. Jamie Finn trying to make some redemption for playing like absolute arse in the last 2 battles. So people always ask me how I count lock-ons. They instantly pivot out. So now at 15 energy. It's 75 for the Focus Blast. I'm then going to throw 6 Poison Jabs. I look to trap this Tin Can into the CMP tie. They do not win, and we do exactly that. Washed up Jamie Finn still makes the occasional good play. We now deplete this Tin Can of all its energy. Switch timers are misaligned. As it's 50 seconds now as opposed to a minute. It's probably up, but I'm going to wait out my timer. Send back out Scrafty, and Gator hits the field of play. We're going to catch the Hydro Cannon onto Drapion, sneaking the Poison Sting in the process. And I'm just going to use Drapion as the 3rd and 4th shield, knowing Scrafty is my win con. Scrafty should be primed to sweep as long as I don't fumble the bag. Crunch forces the Protect Shield and gets the defense drop. The opponent overfarm. Drapion, thanks for your contribution, buddy. I spent 550,000 bloody Stardust on Scrafty, so Scrafty is going to carry us home. The opponent already the next Hydro Cannon, which of course I will be shielding. Looks like the opponent looks to make a catch onto the Tin Can, and this is the easiest win con of my life. Just shield, counter farm down, leaving with the double charge moves. You know the drill. 1 to force to Protect Shield and 1 to knock out. That's if the opponent wastes my time shielding. They probably recognise, even with counters, terrible energy generation, that we're doubled up. They do exactly that, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see yet another Fairy Lead. I'm currently 0-2 against Fairy Lead, and I'm certainly looking for some redemption. Once again, utilising Shadow Drapion on the save switch. I thought, why would you Trailblaze me? But it looks like the opponent's still running a full Fairy moveset. Or they're perhaps disarming Voice and Trailblaze. I've seen a few people run that, and apparently that is the correct move. When I've seen Fairy Lead so far, you haven't seen me fight for switch, and I managed to lose both them battles. So I think this time we're going to make an adjustment and actually look to flip switch. You're going to see me invest the Protect Shield here. Unlike Galarian Weezing, Florges is a pure fairy, so the poison jabs are going to be crazy damage. So if I can get switch, we should be sitting in a good spot. We do take switch, but at the cost of a shield disadvantage, how important does switch advantage prove to be in this battle? Out comes Shadow Gator, and switch advantage proves to be everything. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to concede a farm down. I'm just going to use Scrafty to absorb all of this energy, and then when the opponent eventually pivots back into Florges, it is Shadow Skunk time. Despite the opponent running a Shadow Gator, 2 Shadow Hydro Cannons simply do not cut it. The opponent can fire off another one, and you're going to see we are going to survive. The opponent makes a very nice catch though, catching the Thunder Punch onto Florges, but all chip damage is welcome. They should put him in a range where I can just go for the 1 shield, full poison jab farm down. 1 Hydro Cannon going to be very survivable, so I'm just going to shield this move up in case they've got Moonblast. It's just a disarming voice, but I don't care, that bait will not be saving their fate. Back out comes Gator. We unleash the first Trailblaze. Trailblaze going to be forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield. The opponent going to release the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon gets me low, but the opponent hitting for resisted with the Shadow Claws. We outpace to the next Trailblaze, and finally we managed to beat a very annoying Fairy Lead. GG's and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, we see Galarian Moltres in the lead. So we saw this play out on Snarl, and it's a pretty miserable matchup. However, on counter, this is a very dominant lead. Counter doing a lot. The upper hand also already puts them below half health, and they get the defense drop. Unlike Shmeaty, I'm respecting the Brave Bird. The opponent forcing the Brave Bird. Then rather than concede a farm down, I send out Primate. I waste no time, pivot into the Scorpion, go straight for the Aquatail. Aquatail goes unshielded, and as in my Drapion is a rank 1. They're actually going to have to double CC. Well, not double CC, they're going to have to CC and Rage Fist, as either way, close combat doesn't pick up a 1-hit KO. The opponent now, with a debuff defense, going to invest a Protect Shield, blocking up the Aquatail. The opponent going to get a very nice Karate Chop farm down. I don't really want to take the boosted Karate Chop, so I'm just going to send out Skuntank, respect the close combat, Poison Jab farm down, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. The opponent sends out Lapras. I'm going to take the initiative, bank a bucketload of energy, and send Scrafty back into the arena. Whilst I don't think Scrafty is meta-defining, mostly because counter's now a pretty mid-fast move. It's got some very nice matchups in the Ultra League. Stuff like Claydol, Lapras, Fortress, all these things are very good targets. The opponent pivots back out into Moltres. I'm going to go for the undercharge, look to get more farm. The undercharge works out nice for me. Unfortunately there, the defense drop didn't help me out, meaning I get less farm, but we're still able to reach the upper hand. Upper hand should be forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield. We've got energy banked on Skuntank. We go straight for the Trailblaze. Trailblaze won't quite knock out, but a few boosted Poison Jabs will get me over the line, and we take that game. And that is just about going to wrap things up for today's showcase. Huge shout out to Shmeaty for submitting the battles you saw in the first half of the video. By no means do I think Scrafty is meta-defining, but I think gaining access to Thunder Punch a few seasons ago and also Upper Hand do now make it a viable counter user in the Ultra League. I think outside of Annihilate, it's probably the only one that's got any play whatsoever. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. If you like your battles featured on my channel, link to the battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thanks to everyone for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.